All right, hello everybody. In previous video, I've been saying and mentioning the importance of heaven, and I also mentioned that heaven can be understood as the collective image of everything that is sacred to us, and not only brings us pleasure or no mere positivity, but it is that which makes our life worth it, and including all the deep things that we um, not only enjoy but consider central in our lives. Uh, Central in the sense that we strive to, that we worship, that we prioritize and sacrifice for too. And I also want to talk about hell because it's uh, what no less important. And I do think that you can also see it as the collective image of everything that is tragic in our lives, and more than tragic, um, terrifying, confusing, and perhaps dreadful. So it is a collective image of everything we fear, for example. But perhaps more than that, because, some people would tell us that, well, fear less or don't fear. But and other people also could highlight and see in their lives the importance of fear, how crucial it can be in our lives, how life saving it can be, um, how warning uh, it can be for us, because it warns us and signals to us real problems that are in life. And not least because we are mortal and dependent and vulnerable beings. And what? We die, but also we suffer. And we have the capacity for great sufferings. Um, and that's why that's why all the source of fears that we have, of course, as negatively as they could be considered, they also could be considered positively for all that they warn us about, for all the real problems that uh, we need to what, know about before they will happen to us. And so, if we will take into account that we fear what is real and troublesome for us, and not only troublesome, but perhaps terrible, uh, destruction and death are bringing to us, then, well, it's not the fear then that is the problem, but whatever is there that is so terrible and destructive for us. And so, um, well, whatever is that, it's what we can link to hell. And the worst of that is what we do link to hell. So, hell is the collective image of the most destructive and horrifying things encountered in life from the not the case, right? Because you also, first of all, we share with each other, and it's not only our personal limited experience that we consider, we also consider the all the other experiences of people who somewhat similar to ours but not completely. And it is that imagination that helps us to uh, what understand the things we have not experienced on our own, but that is somewhat resemble it. And that also what we do when we imagine the hell. We look, we kind of play out this imagination. We understand all these horrible and terrifying things that we did experience in our lives, betrayals, perhaps, well, pain for sure, regrets, um, perhaps guilt, or different sorts of conflicts with people, but also in other problems such as the kind of problems that perhaps are um, not in anyone's not under anyone's responsibility. It's the uh, those tragedies of losing someone, uh, family members, friends, perhaps partner or lover, or well, any kinds of tragedies that we went through in our lives. And if you didn't yet went through it, it's more likely that you will at some point, because well, life is full of tragedies, and it's what everyone is well able to experience, right? We have all sorts of um, system and organs for that, which would signal us and uh, well, signals that which harms us, and it would be painful at least. And um, well, these strategies that we go through, they are painful to us, and um, it's not like you want to get rid of all the tragedies from your life, because perhaps a lot of it also gives rise to good things that we do like, is like it's perhaps forgiveness, right? And love despite the hardships, because you don't want any mere love that is just what a benefit. You want a love that would what um hold with you, um take hold of you when it's hard, and uh still don't let go, you know. So it's that kind of love that we pressure. It's that which surpasses the tragedies. Uh, and so perhaps you wouldn't like to get rid of your life or of any troubles and problems, um, but they are kinds of problems that are not any mere problems. They are such life breaking tragedies that, though uh, teach us something, but also um, shaken us a lot, and oftentimes shake the whole ground on which we stand. And a lot of it comes from the human malevolence, right? The cruelty, the violence, as for example, the betrayals, right? The hardest part of it is what? Not just simply having someone gone from your life. It's having someone you loved and trusted turning against you, someone who's been considering your best interest in mind at some point, uh stopping doing it and doing the exact opposite, being considering and doing it despite the knowledge of how hard it would hurt you. So, and it's this selfishness and malevolence that, or rather, it's that selfishness that is rooted in malevolence and greed and corruption and lies that we uh, so frustrated with. And this is also exactly that which we would link to hell and would better never encounter it and better um, not face with it, And when you gather all kinds of these things that are the kinds of strategies that you would rather not face with, that are so what uh, destructive and painful and dreadful, that they seems just to ruin your life and the lives of other people, and when gathered together, constitute that image of hell. So um, in this sense, hell is very important image and concept, because it seems that it starts with the personal experience. Actually, it starts with a real human experience. It starts with the real human encounters of the um, kinds of possibilities that selfishness brings about, and which it means that, well, hell is pretty much not only possible but present in our lives. That's what it means. It means that, well, hell is no abstract concept. Hell is the uh, gathered experience lived out by different people. And the more you encounter the reality and truth of it, of this statement, the more serious it gets for you, because you start to understand that hell is not a simple any punishment that awaits you after your life. Hell is the exact punishment we already receive here for the consequences of our selfishness. Hell is the reality that could be, and not only could be, but is um, present here on earth, here within our lives, unless we do something to uh, not just avoid it because it's present. How can you avoid what is already? So it would be even better for you. So not that you could avoid it, but so you could resist it, right? Uh, fight it, but no, in no simple manner, because you can't what fight hell with hell. This makes no sense. You can't resolve violence with violence. You can't resolve that what you fear and that what you destroy, what distracts you, with the same essence of the destruction uh, that already destroyed your life. You have to use some other methods that would rather be um, what healing for you and for uh, our communities, for other people. So it's no obvious fight that we mean, or no physical battle. It's rather a moral one, right? Perhaps a spiritual battle also could be a good term, but it's not like it's obvious what it means also. But the thing is that, well, when you understand that the very image, a collective image of the hell, is the lived experience, uh, the question rises: what are you going to do with hell? And what are you already doing with it? Because if it's present, if it's lived, then and um not only it's lived, it's kind of all that which we don't like or hate about life, all that what this kind of makes our life miserable. So an obvious question appears is, well, what can you do to lessen our misery? um what can we do to suffer less, and not only to not suffer unnecessary, but rather um uh not only not to suffer pointlessly, but not to suffer in a also self-destructive manner, because there is the source of suffering, hardships that rather productive for you. It's a hard labor, or efforts that still build up the communities, build up your life. But there is the hardships that you go through that not only don't build up your life or the lives of others, but also destroy it and crush it and undermine its foundation. So, well, that's what you want to resist, because it's unavoidable if left on its own, because well, you can't avoid the present, and this is exact assumption of a lived through experience, that well, if it's lived, then it's present. And if hell is constituted by a collective image of all that which is bad, and experienced, and what the image of a lived through experience, then well, it is no less real. And of course, there is a room um, for a potential of it to be even worse. Because the other good lesson that we learn is that um, is that it always can be worse than it is now, and that we don't know too much to claim everything uh, figured out, um, or to claim something to be the final truth. And that's why the hell is not what fully defined or figured out concept. No, there is plenty room of it being much worse than you could imagine it to be. Even more, much worse than anyone could imagine it to be. And so, but fair enough, you better consider all that possibility too, because you better what think about it before it would happen, or you better um, be aware of its possibility than uh, naively and blindly uh, find yourself in it, and then be surprised. um so right, why to face the hell? And the answer is because it is present and uh, the present is ever changing and flowing, and it's impossible to stop the time. So what it means that it's not only is, but it continues, and it will be unless you will, make a change, um and, well, resist the possibility that is exactly a possibility because it's possible, and, well, then, if the question is that we already face it a lot, and our well, because our lives are already miserable in many ways, in even many more ways, the ways we don't know yet about, but yet suffer for. So our lives are already miserable in many ways, definitely more than necessary, uh, and surely, um, a lot of it is exactly because of our ignorance and uh, poor resistance to build another reality that is perhaps resembles more what we mean by heaven than than that what we mean by hell. Um, it's a question too, how and so how can you face hell and what would it mean, right? And I would say that, well, there are all sorts of difficulties and in lives, and all sorts of problems in lives, and um, identify first. There is no way for you to correct the error you were not able to see, the error you have not been able to identify. And, well, uh, one of the ways you can identify that problem, so, or that hardships and difficulties, is see if they are resemble hell more than heaven, and, well, this is the way also to figure out where you could where you could strive instead, or to what you could strive instead, is um, figuring things that trouble you first, figuring things that make you miserable first, figuring out your personal hell and the things that constitute to hell and things that lead to it being present, in your life. You so you I guess, well, you could start from figuring out facing all the hard parts and all the hell parts in your experienced life, and and facing them. And when you identify it, I think then it becomes easier to know exactly what has to be changed and worked with and carried out as a responsibility, you know, mm, the things that have to be addressed. So something else, what is better, could, well, appear on their place, you know, and, uh, In other words, you could also figure out this pathway forward from your personal hell towards your, well, personal heaven that you could work on. And of course, there is a job on your part to do, and it's to know, perhaps it's also to know what exact kind of things um, make the hell more like a hell, uh, and being able to successfully identify these things. And perhaps, well, perhaps you have your conflicts in relationships, which happens quite often in our lives, and perhaps you notice yourself being more angry that you should have been, and this is something that not only that you don't like, because who likes to be angry in the first place, uh, but it's also uh, something what the other person would not like, and which also would mean that this is exactly what you could work on, and you to do that you would still need, to, well, identify what exactly makes you angry, and then, because it's not like you can completely take away all the system that is built within you biologically, right? And it exists there in the first place for some purpose, right? Because you can't be completely all self-sacrificial, um, and because to strive you have to take a sufficient consideration of your own um, needs, and uh, take some hold on some resources too. Well, that would actually maintain your life and striving to. And so uh, it's not like you can close your eyes on that. And it's not in itself what you need to fight against, right? I mean, the anger, let's say, or your or the responsible system for that is not exactly your enemies. It's perhaps the reality of the result of your needs and your life as such. And so, well, then you think, well, I can't fight off the reality of my needs, and uh, but perhaps they are something that is not really a need but just a want. Perhaps uh, I can't, take off my anger um, in a way that, like, capacity for it away, and maybe I shouldn't completely, but maybe I can reevaluate how much worth it for me to have this reaction. If I don't like it myself, and if the other person don't like it too. And then, well, so you have identified that, well, anger, at least, or the responses this kind that you just had, is not exactly what constitutes even your heaven. It's not the perfect outcome that you would even prefer to have. And then the question is, well, why then did you had it? Was it uh, actually was the circumstance actually requiring it? Because if it were, in other sense, also, why would you regret it, or why would you not want it? If you been angry that someone uh, has hurt your friend, let's say, and then you lashed out in some relatively understandable manner. Yeah, it's not like you're going to have regretted immensely unless you did something that was not necessary and reasonable, you know. But if your response was reasonable, you don't necessarily regret it, and you can imagine the reality, even a good reality, in which uh, it is better to have kinds of friends who stand up for you. And well, this kind of reality resembles resembles heaven and not hell. Hell is a well, hell would be the kind of reality in which you have no one to 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 help you out, and you have no one to care enough as to be angry when injustice happens to you. Um, well, this could be hell, right? But in other scenarios, where your anger has not been reasonable, perhaps you know it, yeah, to be too selfish and unreasonably too selfish, and that's why you kind of and protective over it and uh, slightly regretting it, slightly don't liking even it, uh, you know, and you have identified that to be a problem. Uh, you have still to look at what causes it, and you have still to figure this out and to solve it. You have to see this as a problem and then to look for the solutions. And this is exactly why we should face the hell, because, well, what else is there to do if the hell is all of the problems and terrible things that actually are and actually are present in our lives? You know, then the exact thing that we have to do is to move from hell to heaven, but it's no easy job. You know, it's it's an adventure, exact adventure that we have is, well, how the hell do we do it? How do we move from what we have now to well, slightly a better scenario for us? And one of the way to do it is to figure out what you have and what you don't like about what you have. This is a good way of seeing it, and you do it by looking at things that which in your life constitutes hell for you, because well, those are the most crucial things. It's like uh the hell is no joke. The hell is not just any pain, because some sorts of pain could be um helpful rather for you, because they would prevent you from putting your finger in the fire. But the hell is the kind of pain that someone would inflict on the innocent child. This is hell. The hell is the unjustified, unnecessary suffering that is caused by the ignorance and malevolence existing in the world. And we know that. And that's why we have this concept. Um, so that is the question we're faced is, what are we going to do with that, right? And you can't start with the insignificant things first. You can't do it. Uh, the very term significance signals to us that there are priorities that to be made. They are these things to prioritize before the other, and so you can deal with less, well, necessary, less what you can deal with less troublesome problems first. You should attend to what causes the biggest problem, and for this reason I want to present before you this huge concept of hell that is just built up on human experiences. And that's what you also have to recognize. It's real, and if you just don't see it unleashing in your life, and well, you better understand that it exists for the reason because someone experienced it to be real, and you better, not have it happening in your life too. And it could happen, possibly, if you would do, well, nothing to prevent it from happening. um well, because someone did experience that, and for someone, the uh possibilities did unleash in the way uh to be hell like. And, well, you don't want to face this malevolence, you don't want to face this tragedy. The tragedies you already have perhaps are already enough for you, and but if you don't want it to be the case, you have to do something, because, well, all of these things are present, or we would rather just get rid of the term, because they are not it's not relevant anymore, but it is. And hell, as I mentioned, represents the deepest uh, concerns, the deepest uh, problems which we fear, but perhaps, as I said, for a reason, for a good reason. And this is to be dealt with, first and foremost. And we should attend to hell and face hell, and uh, search for the ways to resist it first, before we would go to um, attending the less what terrifying uh less terrifying problems. um and for that, we have to identify also what is hell. We know that it's something deep and deeply, uh not only frustrating, and not only frustrating, it's terrifying and destructive. These should be identified, faced with, so to be dealt with, because you can't ignore what matters so much. And the most crucial problems, the most destructive problems, they matter more, exactly because of how they influence your life. Um, so you want to face the hell first before you face all the other uh, problems that you can bear. You know, uh, and we do have this big concept, for a reason, again, the reason for of flexibility and potential that it allows for. But we still have a work of breaking down this potential to the examples of our personal life. We still have a work to figuring out what is it for us exactly right now, and in the next day, and in the next week, and so on. So we have to figure out our personally experienced hell too, and perhaps also that of our close, no, not perhaps, but that of our close circle too. um and for that, we have to break down what exactly does it mean for us and that people around us. And again, once identified, it should be addressed and resolved. But in which way? In the way so it would resemble more like heaven, more like the deepest significant things that we do appreciate and treasure so much as to regard sacred, as to hold for as the meaning for life, as the meaning that justifies all experienced sufferings. And it's again no mere pleasure. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not, because mere pleasure is not sacred. It's not our deepest value. It's not heaven. The heaven is the most treasurable thing, and it's that kind of love that is capable of overcoming the hell for you. That is sacred. Well, that's why we have the story of Christ. That's why we have the stories of people, and that's who um, are noble, and they're noble exactly for that. And that's why we treasure those stories, you know, uh, so much that they live through us and they outlive us. That's how great is their value. That's how greatly shared is their value. Um, I think it's very interesting because let's let's consider the story of Christ, right? So, um, well, the example of Christ is no ordinary example of love because, well, first of all, in which way did he love the people? In which way did he love? It's no romantic or physically tight love, right? Well, then what kind of love is it? Because it's easy to understand love in the physical way because you can see it, you can touch. But what is the love that is not tied to um, a physical closeness? What kind of love is that? And then, well, this is harder to understand. But I mean, it seems to be treasured even more, right? So, well, he didn't love people in any obvious way of saying it. Well, then, in which way did he love? And um, well, obviously, we can say that it's a way of sacrificing for people his own life. But what does that mean? It's also not obvious. What does it mean that he he loved people so much as to sacrifice his life for them? Okay, and in this ability to sacrifice for people, his love has been shown, right? So, well, what does that mean first? Um, well, I think that first is if he sacrificed himself, then he regarded people as no less important than he is. Well, especially considering that he has not been worthy of the punishment which he took voluntarily anyway. What would that mean? Well, it would mean that though it was not his problem, he valued people so much as to take this problem on his shoulders. Actually, he valued people so much as to take everyone's problems on his shoulder, and this is no light understanding of love. It's no light understanding of love because it's the kind of love that bears everything, um, every hardship, even out of love, even if um so out of its nature, even if it shouldn't have to, it wills to do it because it loves. So that's what Christ does, and he bears the cross, which is a representative of people's problems, their sins, because this is why we have these problems. We do sin, we do things wrongly, and we have the consequences of it. Uh, and well, it doesn't matter if you don't want to face the consequences of what you do, because you do have the consequences of what you do. And what the hell would you do with that, right? You have all these negative consequences that you don't want to face with, you don't want to bear. Well, someone should bear it. It's like you are a non-obedient child and you do whatever you want to, and you have all these negative consequences, but you still want your life to be great. Well, so your life would be great if you don't do what is right. Someone should do. And in many cases, it is that loving mother that is still cooking you breakfast, so though you're absolutely not worthy of this breakfast, but she's still making it for you because she loves you. And that's kind of love that transcends even your evil nature and any kind of evil. Because it's just greater than that, because it's not about you anymore, it's just about its nature now. Well, and it's also about you in a sense of that it recognizes, well, any small thing that could be good in you, though you, well, are not worthy of it by your actions. But it recognizes you more than just your actions, um, which is quite deep. It's quite deep, and it's the deepest sort of love, and it's that love that we regard sacred, and it's that love that constitutes heaven, right? And you can say that the story of Christ has been heaven already, because, well, I'll tell you why. Because the story of Christ has been heaven on earth already, because the goodness that exists that exist uh, in the presence of evil, and despite of it, is greater goodness that is due to the absence of evil. You know, the greatest goodness is the kind of goodness that has capacity to overcome evil, and not the kind of goodness that is good due to the absence of evil. And that's why the heaven on earth that Christ created by his life and his sacrifice has been a greater heaven that could be in a world with no evil. That's why it's a powerful story, and that's why you can sufficiently claim that whatever happened there uh, is an example of heaven, right? Of the highest goodness, highest example of goodness, right? And well, we have these small heavens in our lives too when we do these gestures, and they are no less significant. Trust me, because they hold the meaning of life itself for us. Heaven is not that far away. We can see it in small gestures of kindness, in a meal prepared for you by your mother when you behaved poorly, in a friend who sticks to you in the hard moments, though it's not his responsibility, in the moments of strangers who help you out, though it's not their obligation, and who don't only help you out, but who help you out so willingly and kindly that you just appreciate the kindness and love in the world. And well, this is the resemblance of heaven, because it is the resemblance of everything that we consider sacred and actually worthy of living. And that's why we can't forget the story of Christ. And I want to continue on that example because it's very important to us. Now, Christ not only bear his cross willingly and voluntarily, despite being um, what not guilty, but he also took the greatest punishment of that time, as of the punishment of uh, the most horrible uh, criminal, right? So he took on the worst punishment, because someone, again, the punishment is the consequence of committed sin, because you can't take someone's lives and pretend that it didn't happen. No, people will be angry around you. No, someone who got hurt, and the people of that who got hurt because it's a person close to them, will be angry, and they would seek for retribution. They would seek justice, and you can't kill someone and pretend it didn't happen, because the reality of it will strike you. And so, uh, well, you do it also in your life. You desire the good outcomes for yourself. You desire a good life for yourself, but in all these small ways you commit these sins which lead to exactly opposite. You waste your time doing nothing productive, and you do desire for something good in your life, right? And well, who is taking the consequences of what you did, right? Who is taking the blame on himself? Who is taking the punishment also? Because it's not only the wasted time, it's a wasted time that you could spend helping your mother, who sacrificed her all her life for um, raising you, and raising you well and loving you, who sacrificed all her efforts doing that. And it is that time you spend which you could instead spend on uh, building in the better life for your family, including your mother who cared for you, and including perhaps your wife who deserves no less, and so this, and when you see it in these lenses, you understand that those are the sins, and they are no little sins, they are significant sins, and someone should pay for them. And it will be either your family, your mother, your wife, or it will be who? You too. Well, perhaps it will be just everyone paying for what you did. Everyone, including who surrounds you, will pay for your sins, because the life is not just about you. When you do something, it's also about everyone who surrounds you. And so, well, who's going to solve these problems? And that's what the story of Christ teaches us, that he who committed no sin took the consequences, the punishment, on himself. And he did it not out of how great people were around him, he did it because of his nature, which loved people. He did it out of love. And this exactly how his love has been manifested, has been showed and proven, that he not only gave up his life for everyone, he took on everyone's evil on himself, bearing the punishment. And so the cross reminds us of people's sin, right? And when Christ has been crucified, he bore the punishment that were meant for all the people, and he did it out of love. So he bore all those problems himself. And let's go deeper than that, because I think in yes, in Christian theology, something else happens too. Is that Christ? Uh, so Christ dies on the cross. So he actually gives up his life. The most important things a person can, well, actually possess is his life. Actually possess, right? And so he gives up, and it's not even like completely, it's not a complete possession too, if you think about it, but he gives up this valuable thing of relative possession, uh, actually, and he dies. And so um, then he goes to hell. That's how it goes. That's how the story goes. Then he goes to hell. But he goes there not being guilty of it, right? And so he goes down to hell. And what does he do? Um, so he takes the keys of hell. If I remember it rightly, he takes the keys of hell and he wins over it. And what does it mean? Let's think about it. Well, I think it means that a perfect love is capable of overcoming evil exactly because it's there is no sin in it and no guilt in it. And even when it dies, it is a testimony that lives through the generations. And then it's not only dies, it's never dies, it's reborn, because it lives on forever now. And because it's something that is so truly sacred that is even important, much more important than death, and much more powerful and real than death, because it continues to live on when the body died. And so he takes the key of hell, because he did commit no sin. And by believing him now, and then so he takes the key and I guess he joins the God in eternity, and well, he is God too. So well, I think he's glorified in the throne. That's how the story goes. And um why? Well, because it seems that what happens when you face all the hell is that even if you lose in a physical sense, in any physical sense, you still glory and triumph in all the spiritual and moral sense. And well, that's what happens with the story of Christ. And so um and so right, what happens after that? Everyone who believes in me can have an eternal life. But what does it mean to believe in Christ? And this Christ himself also tells people, he says, if you want to follow me, oh wait, what does he say? He says, he says, take up your cross and follow me. Maybe even he said, everyone who believes in me should take up their cross and follow me. Um, but also check it for yourself. And then what would that mean? Well, take up the cross and follow me. It means do what I did, that the actual victory is a sacred victory, is that victory that we actually value the most. And it's the kind of victory that wins over evil by the just and loving manner. Uh, it's not a violence against violence, it's a love against violence. And, well, guess what? Uh, you can suffer for that physically because it seems like you have no physical power over someone who is violent. But it means that you have another sort of power which is more powerful actually than a physical power, because it's eternal power, and now you will never be forgotten, because that what is truly important and sacred cannot be uh, forgotten, um, because it is exactly that gives which is the source for the meaning that we find within life, and the source of what helps us to strive forward, and hopefully forward exactly that. And so it's a powerful message, the message of facing the hell, but through bringing in the heaven. And as the natural consequence of that, you can lose physically because you don't battle with the what violent methods. You don't battle against flesh and blood as things written in the Bible. You don't battle against flesh and blood. You don't battle against physical bodies. You don't kill, you don't destroy, but you battle the moral battle, and you do what is right even if it costs you. And then if you do what is truly right and valuable and sacred, then you will live into eternity and you will be remembered, because whatever that is, what you do is what is the source of meaning itself. And whatever it is, it would be probably also connected with love, because, well, that is the most sacred and valuable thing that we seem to cherish and regard as sacred. But the kind of love that is also holy, that is also um, not tied to the physical love, but the kind of love that would sacrifice itself to bear all the punishment of yours, right? This is a mother-like love, and this is, but not any mother-like love. It's that mother who truly loves you kind of love, and also the father love, who uh, would do not less, but perhaps more to protect his family, uh, so which would do everything for the best of you, even to sacrifice itself when necessary. Um, not because just of what you've done, but because of the way it loves you. Uh, so this is what powerful and sacred, and this what uh, overcomes the hell and continues to live on eternity, and that's how you face the hell.